Okay, baseline crew, we're going to focus on 2 exercises. And we're going to apply the concepts we've learned so far in the realm of the torso throne, the fullness of the breath and of the trunk, the length and proudness of the back body. And we're also going to really focus on grounding and connecting with the floor. So the idea of kind of sinking the chi, sinking the awareness towards the feet and creating a nice, stable but sprung base. Now everything in between, so let's say that the sit bones are the base of the upper body, and let's say that the feet are the base of the lower body. Everything in between the base of the upper and the base of the lower is going to be as relaxed as possible whilst completing the task. What is the task? There are 2 tasks. The first of them is a gas pedal squat, okay? We call it a gas pedal squat because it's essentially a staggered position like this. It's not as long as a lunge. This is the spacing. And then we lift the heel and it's as if we're pressing down through a gas pedal with the left foot, okay? So that's gonna create a little bit of activation through the calf, and it's also gonna create a little bit of activation through the underside of the foot, which is gonna connect the tissues of the foot through to the leg and create a more unified base structure. So from that gas pedal action of just pressing down through the forefoot to lift the heel, it's just like a millimeter or 2 off the ground. You're then going to center your weight over that foot, okay? So if I'm centering my weight over my front foot, that's gonna look like turning slightly towards it, having my head kind of aligned over it. Now this little bit of a turning, if you've been doing the coil exercises, you already know that this helps you to kind of access your glutes a little bit. This little bit of a coiling, okay? Just by turning in, we're lengthening the tissues in the outer hip. And by lengthening and tensioning those tissues just by moving, not by tensing, we create a more elastic body, which is now connected to the foot. So there's a relationship between this gas pedal action and being able to sort of press down through the ball of the foot, keeping the toes very light. There's a relationship between that and the hip. It's all one big elastic connection, okay? We have head over foot, and we have this little bit of a sense of the knee being held inside the body a little bit, like hugged in a little bit, okay? So from here, I'm already feeling, just from holding this and talking, a sensation in my glute. I should be feeling this foot-glute connection. That's good. I don't want to be squeezing my glute, but it's still going to be working because it's under tension. And we feel things when there's metabolism and tension. So from here, keeping the head over the foot with this slight coiling in, I'm going to check in with my torso throne concept. Notice the broadness through my collarbones. If you looked at my back, you'd see there's fullness and length through my back body. I'm taking up as much space as I need to, okay? I'm growing. Now it's important that this growing and expansion feeling stays here and that we feel the crown of the head and the sit bones relaxing apart, okay? So we know that when things are expanding, they're becoming lengthened, and we know that if we're contracting and tensing, then things shorten. So we can fill, expand, and relax into length using the intention rather than just gripping. That's the torso throne. So I want you to feel sit bones to crown. Full, relaxing, expanding. I want you to soften through the arms and let your shoulders be broad. I want you to connect with your foot and feel your foot. I want you to trust your foot now a little bit more by putting a bit more weight through it, okay? My front knee is obviously soft, my heel is floating. Nice and balanced through the foot. We're not just rolling onto the instep, we're not falling onto the outer blade either. Now as you lower down, I want you to feel that there's a sense of fullness between sit bone or hip and foot. So we're not going to collapse into that, nor are we going to collapse the upper body into itself. There's a fullness here and there's a fullness here. Now if I start to sink, I'm lit up already. The back foot's just there for support and stability. It's allowing it's not out here, it's allowing a bit of this, which kind of encourages the coil slightly. I'm going to breathe fluidly. I'm going to keep soft. I'm going to stay long and expansive. And whenever I notice like, oh, okay, that's my back tightening up, or oh, that's my hip flexor tightening up, I'm going to reorient back into length, and I'm going to soften that, and I'm going to let myself feel and accept the stimulus. I'm going to soften my tissues that don't need to be tense. And usually if I really allow this sense of expansion and relaxation while I'm also asking the task of my body, there's going to be some shaking. Not always, but often, because the body's recalibrating to understand how to drive neurally. It's the nervous system's like, oh, you want me to manage this, not just the old patterns of things locking up to stop movement. Okay, so then you're going to go down as far as you can, maintaining the principles. Touch the knee if possible. You should feel force distributed through the back chain and the front chain. This shouldn't feel like just a knee and quad exercise. If it does, that means you're too upright. It shouldn't feel like it's just a hinge either. There's this athletic kind of haunches lowering position with the expansion of the body. Now to come up, I'm going to drive space. I'm going to inflate and drop my foot through the ground as I'm drawn to the sky and outward. And that's a very different feeling, holy shit, from tensing up to just drive through muscles. Ooh, shaky. Okay, so that's me having a break. It's still intense. It's intense in a relaxing way. And as you know, if you've been doing this course now through the relaxation movements, it's internal strength that we're building. So there you go. Now, this can get lighter over time, but if you're really, really, really deeply relaxing and going internal and going in, then it's probably still going to be hard enough having it on the ground. So I'd suggest maybe 3 reps. You could alternate left, right, left, right, left, right. If you want to be a mad dog, 3 on the left, 3 on the right. And I don't want you to do more than that. In fact, you could even do 1 good rep on a day, but that 1 good rep could take you 5 minutes. So this is all about quality. Remember, this is Kung Fu. This is about cultivating skill within yourself. So don't rush. Doesn't matter what it looks like. What matters is the quality of it, and only you know the quality. So that's the gas pedal lunge or single leg squat. The next one is the same principle in a hinge. Okay, so for this one, the stance is the same. I'm just going to show you from side on. It's exactly the same setup. Instead of sinking down like this, with our throne, we're going to be focusing on the hinge, which means that the triangle from foot, especially ball of the foot, because we're going to float the heel, gas pedal, to sit bones, to crown, that triangle is going to stay full. At the top, the knee is going to be unlocked. We don't want this, we want this. Just like standing. So the top position is our standing posture, but with 1 leg. This means that the triangle is closing, so the hip is coming under. We build from the ground, from the foot, the hip comes under the crown, and this is our top position. Then when we go down, we expand and relax down. And the triangle stays long, so this line from hip to crown, this line from hip to foot, and this line from crown to foot. There's a sense of like fullness inside that space. Okay, my mind is filling this space. I'm not like bunching my consciousness and contracting one thing, and I'm not focusing on the dog, or like I'm in this space and I'm allowing this, and I'm feeling the throne concept, fullness, keeping my back body full and long. I'm trusting in my foot, and I'm observing where my foot wants to fall and collapse too. Like I'm noticing I've got some old injury stuff. So I had surgery on this hip a long time ago, and I had surgery on my left heel, and I'm noticing some patterns with broken toes and stuff, how like the foot's rolling. So I'm exploring that, going slow, feeling and noticing those things, keeping the toes light, and I just hinge. Keeping that sense of length, relaxing and releasing the hip. It's working, it's lit up, the glute's on, but I'm not actively doing more. It just has to be because it's holding me. The heel, it was touching the ground even though it was light, but I'm going to try float it. And now the shaking, because we're in new territory. Relaxing and staying long, not letting myself shrink and contract and crush myself away from the stimulus. I'm expanding into the stimulus to make space in my brain and my body. And I'm exploring, like, if I relax what's not essential, where do my bones end up? Often you end up, if you think foot, sit bones, head, noticing as I come up, remember bringing my base under me. I'm not getting smaller. I need to notice if I get smaller and tense. Bring my attention back to the points of the triangle. Oh, that's so much heat. That's so good. Heat through the body. Okay, so nice. I feel so good after that. It was challenging. So, expanding through the points. And I feel longer. I feel longer and taller through this side of my body. So that's the concept. That's the hinge. You'll notice when you come up with the hinge that, like, if you relax, if you just focus on the points of tension, that often ends up, like, sometimes we're a bit active in our extensors like this. When you relax and let your back expand and you let your hip go where it needs to, it often starts to internally coil. And if you super relax, then it's like sometimes the body turns and the knees touch and you're just like, so see this triangulation? It's incredible, but the body just does this. Your body might do it differently, but this triangulation happens and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm so relaxed. My bones and my tissues are holding me. And it's like, I'm beginning to embody and understand this concept of biotensegrity, where I have these like elastic bands and these bones, and then I have this electricity. And I'm using that as much as possible to optimize my relationship with myself and with the forces of nature like gravity and density and whatever. So explore those two exercises, and then if you have time and if you want to do more, see if you can explore how this relates to something like a press or a plank. Just quickly, in a plank, the only difference is going to be that the triangle has more points. So maybe it's not a triangle anymore, but I still keep the fullness in my back body. Maybe this is the plank, and I have this sense of being here, and my shoulders are like, hey, light up, but I'm going to focus on my hands. I'm going to drop the chi, sink the awareness, be more tactile and sensory through my hands. I'm going to figure out what's essential. So if I just press through the hands, and then if I just press down into the ground through my feet, that naturally starts to adjust my posture. And then I find a throne, and then I want to create space and lengthen the lines between crown, sit bones, feet, hands, and base of the diaphragm. I want to lengthen those lines. Base of the diaphragm is going to be kind of like here, but on the back. It's the yow, that fullness between the low ribs and the top of the lower back. It's really our center point. So I'm feeling that, and I'm just expanding and relaxing into that space to hold this, and then I'm softening as much as possible without collapsing. So that can then progress into something like a push-up, where you want to maintain the same feeling of fullness and length through the torso throne. You want to maintain the same sense of connection through the hands and feet. But you can start to work like this,
And then I should be able to just breathe. I should be able to talk to you. Like if I'm doing this, really applying the concept, pressing through the ground with my feet and my hands, I'm keeping that sense of fullness, then I shouldn't be using anything that's excessively tense. And if it gets to the point where I'm doing this, then that's just approaching like standard training. So that's okay if you just want like force output. But what we're looking to maximize is the differentiation between how much force we can produce and how little force we feel. So we want that yin-yang differential. We want to be feeling nothing internally, like we're going to be feeling something. We want to be feeling less internally, just feeling the essential, while externally we're producing as much as possible by getting out of our own way. So if I went a bit fast, that's more like, I come through the push-up and I'm just talking and my voice doesn't change and I'm still feeling all of the same slings and lines of connection. And I'm like keeping the fullness. And as in standing practice, we have this sense of softness in the hips and knees with the push-up. Locking out is going to create a shortening at some point, but pressing away is going to create a lengthening, and that might not involve locking out, okay? Because remember, we're looking for this sense of maximal lengthening and reach. Okay, so that's the essence of all of these things. Full body, which is full of chi, full of awareness, where there's not much struggle internally other than the surprise of how difficult it is to relax. And then externally, we still can produce force accurately. And then when we load, we can keep that feeling, we can keep that awareness of lines, and we can reintroduce classical training if it's necessary. But you may find for quality of life and for your movement ability that it's not as necessary as often as you think. All right.